Hey guys, it's Ethan from Zimmer Labs, and this is the Phoenix Props and 7Chambers Hero Ultimate Edition hilt that I just finished building into a full masterpiece NeoPixel lightsaber build. This is a really gorgeous hilt. Something I picked up off of eBay because it was a really good price and I hadn't actually seen one of these guys before, so I wanted to take a look at it in person. This is one of those hilts that's everybody's favorite, but it's hard to find the definitive version. Up until now, I think the Corband LS6 has been my favorite, not because of the overall screen accuracy, but because of the engineering on the LS6. It's just really good. I mean, it's so cool how it's on ball bearing sliders, and it's got a ton of potential. But the fit and finish is not as good as I would have liked, and it's not as screen accurate as I would have liked. This guy really is gorgeous. This and I think maybe the Roman props are my two favorites, but this guy's really gorgeous. The copper parts are genuine, real copper, not plated or painted metal. They're solid copper, and they're really nice right out of the box. Like no refinishing, polishing, anything like that required on this copper stuff. It just looks really nice right out of the box. The clamp card here is gorgeous. It's a real clamp card, PCB done in brass with blue lines in between, so it's screen accurate and it looks the part. It really is just nice, and then the proportions are really good too. You want a big honkin' chunky control box on this lightsaber. You don't want a small one or a skinny one, and that's something that typically, you know, most manufacturers get wrong. They make it too big or too small, but this guy's nice. It's really nice. I really like what they did. I love the pommel here. The sound venting is really nice looking. It does unscrew, but you can't tell. Like, you cannot see any gap there, which is really what you want, and it looks perfect. It looks the part. Plus, the finish is really nice on it. I also personally really like that the grenade section here is uneven. If you take a good close look at it, these sections are not all the same width. Like these, there are too skinny, one fat, too skinny, one fat. Oh, it's actually kind of hard to see. Too skinny, one fat, one skinny, three fat, one skinny, one fat. They're all slightly different sized, and that's actually screen accurate. That's actually how it was on the original prop, and I've never seen anyone actually do that before. I've never seen anyone do anything but have these be exactly the same, symmetrical, even, and you don't notice it when you look at it. Somebody pointed it out to me, and that's the only reason I know about it. But now that I know it's there, it's obvious to me now, and it really looks good. It really looks a lot more accurate. Let's dive into it. This is something that I don't know if there even is a chassis for it. If there is, it's nothing special, and there's not a whole lot of real high-end options, so I had to get creative, and the internal measurements on this guy made the stock Custom Works SID chassis perfect for this. So since I had one that was essentially extra, I wanted to do a custom install where I could work the stock SID Elite chassis into this guy, and it turned out to be like the perfect size, the perfect fit. It's a really excellent chassis, and it's incredibly versatile. Like, if you guys have watched my videos, you saw my Anakin Slim Flex that I used that chassis for. Now I put it in this guy. It goes great in a lot of different hilts. But let's dive into it. As you can see here, control box has functioning LEDs. Oops. So when it's off, The red LED's on when it's on. Green LED's on. Really simple. No blinking, no nothing like that. You can program it to do that if you like, but I just like the on-off function, so I kind of know what's going on with it. The buttons are here. This side black box greeble is actually the auxiliary button. It's got really good action on it. And then the main power button is just underneath the top of the clamp card here. Also has really good action. Let's get back to the beginning. The blade plug that actually comes with this guy is this. It's a solid aluminum piece that goes in here, and you set it with the set screw here. But I wanted to have some light shine through, obviously. And so this guy isn't going to work for that. So what I did was I took some spare parts that I had kicking around. This actually came from a Corbanth LS6. This is just a spare part that I cut off and sanded down and then put inside of 2 sections of blade tube here. It's a 7/8 and a 1-inch blade tube. Squeezed together and then sanded down so it's nice and flat so you can't see that there's 2. But that gives it a nice thick section of shine through. Looks really good. And that is just a dummy blade plug. Very short and sweet, with the pixels being mounted to the blade connector here. This is a super long, extra long pogo pin stock Custom Works NeoPixel blade connector. Super bright. I love how when it retracts, it actually shuts off in a circle. Just a cool little touch. As I said, that guy's locked in with the set screw, so just tighten it up a tiny bit to get that blade retention locked in. Down bottom, unscrew this pommel to access your chassis control here. As you can see, there is main power switch on the bottom, then USB and SD card at the top, and then there's 2 pogo pins right there, which mate to the speaker module, which is installed directly into the pommel. It's mounted in there, so you don't have to worry about it coming out, being loose. It's not going anywhere. And all you have to do is simply screw it in to reconnect it. You want to be careful when you do that, though, to not cross-thread it, because these threads are very fine and really easily cross-threaded and destroyed. Let's pop the blade in right quick, and then we will take her apart so you guys can see how everything works. 7/8 inch blade, 1-inch blade adapter. the Turbine Blade, which is done in a custom color, which is essentially a really light green. This is a audio flicker yellow. Purple. Bright red. Alright, so now to get to the good stuff. I go ahead and take the blade out, just so it's less awkward while I take this guy apart. Fully modular, fully removable, very, very simply done. Just for the sake of being thorough, I'm going to pull the pommel off. You don't have to do that, but because the whole thing is under tension from both ends with pogo pins, it's easier to take the chassis out and to make sure everything stays in good shape if you relieve the pressure, obviously, from one or both ends. So, to access the chassis, unscrew the pommel if you want to, for safety's sake. Slide the clamp card down. That's just a press fit. Slide it down. There's your button that's hidden underneath the chassis, or underneath the clamp card, sorry. And then there is just one screw. Standard Phillips head type screw. It only screws in about 4 or 5 turns, and then this whole control box pops right off. It's on a 6-pin header, which is the main connection to the chassis, and this is essentially a key. Without this, nothing's going to really happen. Then unscrew right at the middle, right where the grenade section meets the bottom of the hilt, and slide off. And hiding inside is this fine fellow. As you can see, there's the other end of the header pin connector. It's the female side. 6 pins hanging out right there. We've got dedicated buttons right on the chassis. Power and auxiliary. Look how good that looks. It's just so ridiculously well illuminated. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slap on the secondary speaker that I have from a different build. It's a magnetized speaker, so we can get some audio while we do this. We've got the ultra high density neopixels once again making an appearance in this guy. And they do a Cylon effect as the accent. They go from a white Cylon to a ramp up to match the blade color, and then ramp back down. Then we have really badass, monstrous honking quartz crystal in here. Another pogo pin style blade connector on top here, with neopixels on board. And I have to tweak the programming a little because these don't match perfectly. So, apologize for that. Here we go. This is one of my favorites. This is the electricity blade, and it just looks really good. That quartz crystal is gorgeous. I just love how smooth those neopixels are when they're as dense as that. Hopefully you guys can really see that crystal. It's kind of hard when it's not illuminated, and it's also hard when it is. But it is pretty honking. It fills that entire area. Show you guys the fire blade. That's probably my second favorite here when you're looking at the chassis. That's gorgeous. The way the fire runs up. Wild. The whole inside of it is essentially operating as if it's a lens, an LED lens for the neopixel. So the whole inside of it looks like it's full of magma. That's absolutely gorgeous. That's the first time I've actually noticed that, so I'm kind of in awe of it right now. Sorry about that, guys. In awe live. That is a trip. Wow, that really came out well. I'm super happy with that. Let's get to the electricity blade again. Yeah, that's nuts. One more look at the fire blade, and then we'll move on, but I am just so blown away at how that looks. Funny, sometimes something that might be the coolest part of a build is something you stumble on. I actually had no intention of that effect even happening, but now it's something I'm going to do all the time. Alright, so internal workings. Magnetic speaker. Main power switch here. This is the cover that covers up the board and the accent circle. Dual strips of 10 pixels each. Profi board, USB and SD card down here. Cover's got some metal elements, brass mesh hanging out behind all the little windows. And that reattaches just by this stainless steel pin that clips in here and here, and that's all there is to it. Just pops in. On the other side, removable 18650 battery. This one I did actually do a bit of work to make it a one-way battery sled. On the previous builds that I've done with this chassis, the battery can fit in both ways and actually can make connections both ways, but if you modify the chassis here and do a flat contact section here that slides inside of the two bits, the two channels here, then that actually will give you a recessed contact so that you have to have a button top for it to actually make contact, which is nice because if you put this in backwards, it's not gonna connect to that. Because the negative side is flat, doesn't have the button top, so it can't short anything out. It can't be installed wrong, so you don't actually have to worry about it. That's nice. Recharge port here. This is where the main switch is supposed to go, but for this build it made more sense to put it on the rear end, so that's what I did. Just a beautiful finish all around. It's a gorgeous chassis, it really is. Dimitri did a hell of a job designing this guy, and it is really, really a versatile chassis. There are so many hilts that this will fit into. With a bit of work, with a little bit of thought, a little bit of planning, but yeah, you can make it go into a lot of things. You know, as long as it's not too thin inside, which very few are, because this guy's pretty skinny. But if it's too fat inside the hilt, you can just use some closed cell foam to pad it, and that will be fine, like I did with the Slim Flex. And that's that. So let's pop it back in real quick. I'll show you guys how easy that is to do. I'm going to go ahead and put the speaker back on here. And then you simply, actually we'll start by installing this guy into the top. I had put a tiny little dot with the Sharpie on here, but I lost it. You want to have the orientation correct for the header pin, so this will go in however you want, but actually before we do that, there's the other connector that mates with the pogo pins up in there. So just slide that guy up in there until you feel it kind of spring load against those pogo pins, and then simply screw on the bottom. Oh, look at that, I got lucky. Actually lined up almost perfect. And now if it's out of alignment, you just want to push it over a tiny bit. And then put the control box on so that the pins line up. Test it real quick by pushing the button. And then all you have to do is simply screw the screw down to lock the control box back on. Boom. The clamp slides back up, or the clamp card slides back up inside the clamp here. Press fit. And Bob's your uncle. Simple as that. And it's really that simple to fully disassemble and reinstall this guy in this. A very simple, very elegant install thanks to a really excellent chassis design. And then of course when you're done playing with it, this is a rule of thumb for always. Never forget to pop it open and just turn off that main power switch. Give it a quick test. Make sure nothing's happening. Totally dead. Good. Because you don't want to leave the power running because those accent LEDs are still cranking away in there, and they're going to burn up your battery overnight. If you leave it on a day or two, you're going to have a completely dead battery in there. And with the Profi board, it's going to tell you when the battery's getting critically low, which is a great option, except when it's 4 in the morning and you're sound asleep, and then all of a sudden your lightsaber starts talking to you. It's got a really loud, scary, horrifying voice, especially when you're sound asleep, and it goes, "Battery is critical," or whatever it says, and wakes you up, and it's not fun the first time that happens. Trust me, no fun. Thank you guys for watching, as always. This guy is actually available for sale because this was kind of just an experimental build. So if anybody's interested, feel free to get in touch, and stay tuned. I've got lots more coming.